If you ever had one of those days, maybe even a whole week, where you just felt unstoppable.
Yeah.
You're a powerhouse.
Oh, yeah.
You hit every single goal. You say no to all the junk. You pick the salad. You finish your hardest task before lunch. You feel amazing.
Like superhero of self-control.
Exactly. And then, bam, the crash. The next day or, maybe even the next hour, your diet is out the window. You're buying something you totally regret, and you're just snapping at everyone.
It's that maddening question, isn't it? Why does that inner discipline feel like a superpower 1 minute and then just poof, vanish the next?
We're sort of taught to think of willpower as this fixed moral virtue. You either have it or you don't.
We tell ourselves, oh, I failed because I'm weak or I have no character. But what if that whole frame is just wrong? What if willpower isn't a virtue at all, but a biological instinct? Something you can actually measure and, more importantly, train.
Okay, let's get into that. Today, we are doing a deep dive into that very idea, using the framework from Kelly McGonigal's incredible Stanford course, The Science of Willpower, which became the book, The Willpower Instinct.
And this course was really groundbreaking because it brought together all this amazing new research from everywhere. I mean, neuroscience, economics, psychology, even medicine.
To basically strip away all the shame and the morality and just look at the science of it.
Exactly. And it provides this powerful shortcut for dealing with modern life, The students in her class, they were tackling everything.
The usual stuff, I imagine. Losing weight, managing debt.
The usual stuff, yep. Quitting smoking. But also more complex things, like finally beating chronic procrastination or even handling those really, really difficult relationships at work.
So our mission today is pretty clear. We want to pull out the absolute best science and the most practical strategies, she calls them willpower experiments, that were tested by hundreds of students who actually made these changes stick.
We want to get way beyond just try harder and give you the actual user manual for your brain.
And I think the one core idea, if you take nothing else away, is this.
Right. Willpower is not about brute force. It is about self-awareness and training. It's about knowing your limits and strengthening 3 very specific biological...
To really get a handle on this, we have to go way back to its origin story. This isn't just modern psychology. It's about pure evolutionary pressure from, like 100,000 years ago.
That's where you have to start. Because for most of human history, 200,000 years ago, survival was simpler. Cognitively, anyway.
Find food, don't become food, pass on your genes.
Pretty much. Your immediate impulses, hunger, aggression, they were your friends, they kept you alive. See food, eat it all, see a threat, fight it, or run away.
But then things got complicated. We started living in these big, dense tribes.
And suddenly the rules for survival just completely changed. It wasn't just about how strong you were anymore. It was about whether you could cooperate, whether you could get along.
Your social standing was everything.
Everything. If you stole from your neighbor or you attacked a family member in a fit of rage, you'd be cast out.
And being cast out back then, that was a death sentence.
A death sentence, absolutely. So to survive in the tribe, you had to learn to manage your most basic instincts. Appetite, aggression, sex drive, you had to put the brakes on.
So that drive to override what you want right now for the sake of the group, that's where modern self-control was born.
It was a required upgrade for civilization to even happen. We needed an internal manager. And that manager lives in a very real physical part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the PFC.
Right. This is the big chunk of brain right behind your forehead.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that in earlier species, its job was mostly about physical control. Coordinating movement, planning a path.
Like a proto-self-control, controlling the body.
That's a great way to put it. And as the human brain evolved, the PFC it ballooned. It got way bigger, way denser than in other animals, and it took on these massive new executive functions.
It's the CEO of the brain.
It really is. It manages attention, it regulates emotions, it weighs conflicting desires. All 3 of those powers we talked about, I will, I won't, and I want, they're all functions of the PFC. It's what lets you hold a rule in your head, like I don't eat sugar, and actually act on it.
And there's no better proof that this is a physical thing, not just a matter of character, than the story of Phineas Gage.
It's a horrifying story, but it changed everything we thought we knew about the brain. It's 1848, and Gage is this model citizen. A railroad foreman, super diligent, known for his iron will.
The kind of guy who just gets things done.
Totally. But then there's this freak accident. A blasting operation goes wrong, and a 3.5-foot iron rod shoots straight through his head.
Unbelievable. Through his cheek, out the top of his skull.
And the craziest part is he survived. He was conscious, he walked, he physically recovered, but the man who came back, he wasn't Phineas Gage anymore.
His personality just
Yeah.
completely flipped.
His doctor wrote that he became fitful, irreverent, indulging in the grossest profanity. And here's the key part. He was impatient of restraint and would abandon his plans as soon as he made them.
His friends literally said he was no longer Gage.
Hmm.
The hardware damage didn't affect his memory or his ability to walk, but it completely wiped out his self-control.
It's the ultimate, if tragic, proof. He lost all three powers at once. He couldn't will himself to stick to a plan. He couldn't want himself to stop his impulses. And he lost his I want power. He couldn't focus on any long-term goals because the short-term urges just took over everything.
That really changes your perspective. When you fail to resist that cookie, it's not a moral failing. It's a resource issue in a specific piece of your brain's hardware.
Right. So if the PFC is the headquarters, what keeps it running, what powers it up, and what shuts it down, it all comes down to your physiological state.
I love the distinction the book makes here between two different stress responses. It's the saber-toothed tiger versus the strawberry cheesecake.
It's the perfect analogy for modern life. The fight or flight response is ancient. It's for that tiger, an immediate external life or death threat.
Your brain's alarm bell, the amygdala, goes off.
And your body gets flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. Energy, sugar, and fat is instantly sent to your muscles so you can move.
And what happens to our CEO, the PFC?
It gets shut down, put to sleep. Rational thought is slow and expensive. When a tiger is chasing you, you don't want to deliberate. You want to be impulsive. You want to be fast.
But our modern threats aren't tigers. They're internal. They're that slice of cheesecake or the temptation to go into debt or that email addiction.
Exactly. You don't need to run from the cheesecake. You need to resist it. And that requires a totally different biological state. The willpower instinct, or what she calls the pause and plan response.
So it's the total opposite of fight or flight. Your body needs to be calm, focused,
and directing all its available energy straight to the PFC for wise decision-making. It's an internal budget decision.
and we can actually measure how well our body's doing this.
We can, with something called heart rate variability, or HRV.
Okay, HRV. This sounds technical, but I hear it's actually pretty simple. Why is variability a good thing?
I would think a steady heartbeat is what you want.
That's a super common thought, but no. In this case, a healthy heart is a flexible heart. Think of your nervous system as having a gas pedal and a brake. The gas is the stress system. The brake is the relaxation system.
Right, the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. High HRV means your heart rate speeds up a lot when you breathe in, that's the gas, and slows down a lot when you breathe out, that's the brake.
So high variability means your brain, your PFC, has really good control over both. It can hit the gas and the brake effectively.
Perfectly put. High HRV is a literal physiological measure of your willpower reserve. It predicts better resistance to temptation, better focus, better everything. People with low HRV are at a real disadvantage. They've shown that recovering alcoholics with a drop in HAV when they see alcohol cues are way more likely to relapse.
Wow, which makes this next point absolutely critical. Stress is the enemy of willpower.
They are biologically incompatible. You cannot be in fight or flight and pause and plan at the same time. Chronic stress is literally starving your PFC of the energy it needs to function.
Your body is stuck in this short-term survival mode.
It's all about getting relief right now. Quick dopamine hits. We see this on a huge scale in the data. After the 9/11 attacks, researchers saw New Yorkers' HRV levels plummet. And what happened? Spikes in drinking, smoking, drug use. Same thing after the 2008 financial crisis.
So when you say, I'm too stressed to deal with this, it's not an excuse. It's a biological fact. Your body has already made the decision to pull resources from the PFC.
Precisely. But, and this is a big but, you can actively restore that reserve. And one of the best willpower experiments for this is a simple 5-minute brain training meditation.
And the beauty of this is that you don't even have to be good at it. In fact, failing is kind of the point.
It is. The magic isn't in having a perfectly clear mind. The magic is in the moment you notice your mind has wandered off to your grocery list.
Yeah.
And you gently bring it back to your breath.
Without beating yourself up about it.
Right. That act of noticing and redirecting is a bicep curl for your PFC. You're practicing the exact skill you need to resist an impulse in real life. Even a bad meditation session is a great workout for your brain, increasing blood flow to the PFC and boosting your HRV over time.
And then there's just genuine rest.
Yeah.
Not scrolling on your phone, but actually letting your body relax.
Yes. The experiment is to relax to restore your willpower reserve. Just by slowing your breathing down, especially making your exhales longer than your inhales, you manually activate the brake, the parasympathetic nervous system. It's like hitting a physical reset button for your self-control.
So we've covered the nervous system. Now let's talk about the fuel source. This brings us to the famous muscle model of self-control.
This model is so useful. It has two parts. First, in the short term, willpower gets tired with use. It's like a muscle. If you spend all day at a stressful job making tough decisions and biting your tongue.
Like Susan, the manager from the book.
Right. By the time you get home, that muscle is exhausted. You'll have way less capacity to resist overeating or skipping your workout. It's temporarily depleted.
But the second part is the optimistic part. Just like a muscle, if you exercise it regularly, it gets stronger over time.
And this model led to the discovery of the glucose link. Early studies found this really clear connection. Low blood sugar predicted willpower failures. Everything from more aggression to giving up sooner on hard puzzles.
And giving people a sugary drink would magically restore their self-control.
Temporarily, yes. So at first, everyone thought, oh, willpower literally runs on sugar. But the truth is, it's a bit more nuanced. The amount of energy your brain actually uses for self-control is tiny, like less than half a Tic Tac's worth per minute.
So what's really going on?
It's what they now call the Stingy Brain hypothesis. Your brain is like a nervous bank manager, constantly checking your energy levels. When it sees glucose levels dip, it panics. It thinks famine is coming.
An old-school survival instinct.
Totally. And when a bank manager thinks a crisis is coming, what do?
They hoard cash, they get stingy.
Exactly. Your brain starts cutting the most energy-intensive processes first. And what's at the top of that list? Long-term planning, impulse control, all the work of the PFC. It shifts all its resources to short-term, high-reward, impulsive behavior. Grab what you can right now.
That's fascinating. That explains why being hangry is a real thing. Your brain is literally biased toward impulsivity when it's low on fuel.
It is. So the long-term fix, the willpower diet, isn't about cutting calories, it's about stability. You want to eat low glycemic foods, lean proteins, nuts, fiber that give you a steady stream of energy, not the huge spikes and crashes from processed foods that trigger that stingy brain response.
And beyond diet, there's physical exercise, which the book calls the wonder drug for self-control.
It really is. The effects are immediate and long-term. In the short term, just 5 minutes of walking can reduce cravings and boost your mood. And long term, it literally builds a bigger, better brain. It increases gray and white matter in the PFC and boosts your baseline HRV.
It's like a triple win for the biology of willpower.
Absolutely. And you don't need to run a marathon. Even a little bit of activity goes a long way. This all leads into the idea of targeted training.
The idea that willpower is a general strength. Strengthening it in one small area can spill over into everything else.
It can. You can challenge the muscle with these small, almost random tasks, like using your non-dominant hand to brush your teeth or committing to not swearing for a week.
It sounds silly, but these are like high-repetition workouts for the PFC.
They are. The research showed that students who did things like this, even just tracking their spending carefully, showed improvements in totally unrelated areas, like better focus in their studies or being less impulsive.
I love the story of Jim, the graphic designer who is constantly distracted by social media.
Jim's experiment was so clever. He put a big, tempting jar of jelly beans on his desk and made one simple rule: no candy from the candy jar.
Now, you'd think seeing the temptation all day would drain him.
But it did the opposite. It energized him. Because every single time he saw the jar and chose not to take a jelly bean, he was getting a little hit of competence, a little win.
He was proving to himself that he could stick to a rule.
Yes. It wasn't about avoiding the temptation, which is exhausting. It was about actively engaging the PFC in a low-stakes exercise. And that small, repeated proof of his own self-control built up a reservoir of confidence that he could then use to resist the bigger temptations, like social media.
Okay, so we've got the biological foundation down. Now we have to talk about the cognitive traps, the ways our brain tricks us into failing, often right after we've been successful. Let's start with a big one: moral licensing.
Moral licensing is so insidious. It's the idea that when you do something good, you establish this moral credential in your mind.
You feel virtuous.
Right. And that feeling of virtue gives you psychological permission to then do something bad. The logic is, I was so good, I've earned a little treat.
We've all been there. I went to the gym, so I deserve this entire pizza.
Exactly. The studies on this are kind of unnerving. In one, students who strongly rejected some sexist statements and felt really good about themselves for doing it were then more likely to discriminate against a woman in a mock hiring task that followed.
Wow, so feeling moral actually made them less vigilant against their own biases.
It's like their brain said, check, moral box ticked, you can relax now. And the worst part is the fuzzy math. The two things don't even have to be related. Saving money on a purchase makes you feel licensed to splurge on something else entirely.
So how do you fight that? How do you stop your brain from running this bad accounting?
The key is to shift your focus from progress to commitment. If you're thinking about progress, I've checked off 3 workouts this week, you're more likely to take a day off that turns into a week off.
But if you focus on commitment,
I exercise because I'm a person who's committed to my health, then skipping the gym isn't a reward, it's a threat to your identity.
which leads to the willpower experiment. To revoke your license, remember the why. When you feel that temptation, you have to pause and remember the deep reason you resisted before.
Not, I was good yesterday, so I earned this, but I was good yesterday because I want to be healthy, and this indulgence gets in the way of that. It keeps the goal front and center.
And this is related to the halo effect, right? The whole organic cookie phenomena.
Oh, absolutely. The halo effect is when we let a tiny bit of virtue, the halo, blind us to a whole lot of vice.
Marketers are masters of this. Pair a greasy cheeseburger with a side salad on the menu.
And people will actually underestimate the total calories of the meal. In fact, some studies show that when a fast food place adds a healthy option, sales of their healthiest items actually go up.
Because just seeing the salad on the menu gives you a license to not order it.
The menu itself feels virtuous. And the people who are most likely to fall for this are the ones who are actively trying to be disciplined. Their brains are desperately looking for that justification to indulge.
Then there's the trap of borrowing from tomorrow. This is where we just assume our future self is going to be some kind of willpower superhero.
We do, don't we? Future me is going to wake up early, pay off all the credit card debt I'm racking up today, and love eating kale.
Future me is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Present me is kind of a slob.
It's a real neurological phenomenon. Your brain actually uses different regions to think about your present self and your future self. It treats your future self like a stranger.
And it's easy to assign all the hard, unpleasant jobs to a stranger.
Of course. That's why we procrastinate and go into debt. We're offloading the consequences onto someone we don't feel connected to.
So how do you build that connection?
You have to force the connection. The experiment is to realize that tomorrow will be just like today. If you are tempted to indulge today with the promise of being good tomorrow, you have to break that promise.
What do you mean?
If you skip the gym today, you have to accept that you're just as likely to skip it tomorrow. If you overspend today, you have to look at your budget and see that same impulse will be there tomorrow. It takes away the crutch of future perfection and forces you to deal with the real cost of your choice right now.
That's tough. Okay, now we have to talk about the chemistry of desire. Dopamine's lie.
This is such a critical insight. We tend to think of dopamine as the pleasure chemical, but it's not. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of wanting, of anticipation, of seeking.
So it's the promise of reward chemical.
Perfect. It's the little alert in your brain that says, hey, pay attention, that thing over there could be important for survival. It compels you to act. But, and this is the lie, it does not guarantee satisfaction or happiness.
So the feeling of wanting something and the feeling of liking something are two completely different brain systems.
Completely different. The rat studies are the clearest proof. When they knocked out the dopamine system in rats, the rats still liked sugar. They would enjoy it if you put it right in their mouths, but they wouldn't work for it. They had no motivation, no desire.
That explains so much, like why we can be compelled to check our email again and again, even though it's usually just full of junk and makes us anxious. The seeking is more powerful than the actual reward.
It is. And our entire modern world is engineered to be a dopamine delivery system. The pings from your phone, the limited time offer signs, the endless scroll on social media. It's all designed to keep your wanting system on high alert.
So the willpower experiment has to be about exposing the lie.
It does. The experiment is to test the promise of reward. The next time you feel that compulsive urge for a snack, for a social media check, do it, but do it mindfully. Really pay attention. Does the experience live up to the anticipation? Or does the wanting just lead to more wanting and then, disappointment or frustration?
We've all had that feeling. You eat the thing you were craving and 5 seconds later you're just, meh.
But you still reach for another one. By consciously noticing the gap between the promise and the reality, the temptation starts to lose its power over you.
And this brings us to the most vicious cycle of all, The what the hell effect,
Mm.
where guilt actually makes things worse.
This is a devastating loop. It starts when you have a setback. You break your diet, you snap at someone, you feel guilty, stressed, ashamed.
And what do we do when we feel bad?
We seek comfort. We seek a quick hit from that reward system. Food, shopping, alcohol. The stress of the failure itself depletes your willpower, making you more likely to indulge.
It's the classic, well, I already ate one cookie, so what the hell? I might as well eat the whole box and start over tomorrow.
That's the one. And it's a guaranteed downward spiral. The research on drinking is so clear. The guiltier people felt about how much they drank last night, the more they drank the next night. Guilt acts as a stressor that drives you right back to the behavior you feel guilty about.
So the answer is, get rid of guilt as a motivator. That feels so wrong.
It feels wrong, but the science is undeniable. Self-compassion is the foundation of self-control, not self-criticism. They did a study where they had dieters eat a donut. One group was encouraged to feel guilty. The other group was encouraged to forgive themselves, to be kind to themselves.
And what happened next?
They were then put in front of a bowl of candy for a taste test. The group that felt guilty ate way more candy. They were already in the what the hell cycle. The self-forgiveness group. They ate significantly less. They were able to reset and get back on track.
That's incredible. So the experiment is...
Talk to yourself like a friend. When you mess up, treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd offer to someone you care about. It short-circuits the shame spiral and allows you to learn from the mistake instead of being consumed by it.
Okay, we've gone through the traps. Now for the solutions. The path to greater control. Let's start with bridging that gap between the person we are now and the person we want to become. Seeing the future self.
Right, we have to fight against our brain's natural tendency for delayed discounting. That's the simple fact that a reward is worth less to us the longer we have to wait for it.
2 M&Ms now are better than 6 M&Ms in 2 minutes.
Our brain discounts the future like crazy. And like we said, it's because our brain treats our future self like a stranger. So the goal has to be to increase what they call future self continuity to make that stranger feel like family.
This is where visualization actually becomes a real practical tool.
It does. There was this amazing study where they used age progression software to let college students interact with a digital avatar of their older future self.
They literally met their future self.
Yes, and after that one interaction, those students allocated more than double the amount of money to a hypothetical retirement account compared to a control group. Seeing their future self made them care about their future self.
So how do we do that without fancy software?
We can frame our present choices differently. Think of Amina, the student from the book who wanted to be a doctor but was addicted to Facebook. She learned to stop and ask herself, is this hour on Facebook worth giving up my dream of becoming a doctor?
That changes the stakes completely. It's not about a small indulgence anymore. It's about a massive future loss.
It engages your I want power to protect your long-term goal from your short-term impulses.
Okay, moving from our own mind to the minds of others. Let's talk about the power of social contagion. Willpower is apparently infectious.
It really is, for better and for worse. Things like obesity, smoking, fitness habits, they spread through social networks like a virus. The Air Force Academy study on this is just mind-blowing.
Tell me about it.
They found that the single best predictor of a cadet's final fitness level wasn't their own fitness when they started. It was the fitness level of the least fit person in their squadron.
So the group's bad habits literally pulled everyone down.
The pressure to conform to the group norm is incredibly powerful. And we're biologically wired for this. We have mirror neurons that make us unconsciously mimic the actions of people around us.
You see someone reach for a chip and your hand starts to twitch.
Exactly. Your brain is already priming that action. This all points to the power of social proof. We are not motivated by what we think is right. We're motivated by what our tribe is doing.
The California energy study proved that right. People didn't conserve energy to save the planet or save money.
They conserved energy because they were told their neighbors were conserving more energy than they were. That was the only message that worked. The desire to fit in with the norm trumped everything else.
Which means we have to be super careful about negative statistics. Hearing that 86% of people don't exercise just normalizes failure.
It makes you feel fine about not exercising. It lets you off the hook. The flip side, though, is that positive contagion works too. Surrounding yourself with people who have the habits you want is one of the most powerful things you can do.
Okay, last one. This might be the most counterintuitive strategy in the whole deep dive. The ironic failure of suppression. The white bear problem.
Don't think of a white bear.
And now that's all I can think about.
That's it. Trying to push a thought, a feeling, or a craving out of your mind makes it come back stronger. It's called ironic rebound. The dieter who tries to banish all thoughts of chocolate ends up dreaming about chocolate.
Why does our brain do that to us? It seems like a design flaw.
It's because the task gets split between two parts of your brain. There's the effortful operator system, which is actively trying to think about something else. Think about broccoli, not chocolate.
That's the PFC working hard.
Yes. But then there's the automatic monitor system. Its job is to scan for failures. It's constantly checking, are we thinking about chocolate yet? How about now?
So the part of your brain that's trying to help is constantly reminding you of the thing you're trying to forget.
And here's the kicker. The operator gets tired. It runs on willpower and energy. When you're stressed or distracted, it gives up. But the automatic monitor just keeps on running, endlessly priming the thought. Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate.
And the evidence backs this up.
Mm-hmm.
The people who try the hardest to suppress thoughts about food are the most likely to binge.
Which leads us to the only real antidote. Acceptance and surfing the urge. You have to give up the fight. The moment you stop trying to control your inner experience, it stops controlling you.
So you just let the thought be there.
You give yourself permission to have the thought or feel the craving without judging it and, crucially, without needing to act on it. This is a core technique for overcoming addiction and anxiety.
The Hershey's Kisses study was the one that really sold me on this.
It's perfect. They told one group of students to accept their chocolate cravings but not act on them. The other group was told to distract themselves. The acceptance group had fewer cravings and ate 0 chocolates against the rules. The suppression group ate almost twice as many.
Because acceptance isn't indulgence. You're giving up control of your thoughts to gain control of your actions.
Beautifully said. And the final willpower experiment is to learn to surf the urge. When that craving hits, don't fight it and don't give in. Just observe it. Notice the physical sensations in your body. Ride it like a wave, knowing that it will crest and then fall. And it always, always does.
Wow. We have covered so much ground today. From ancient evolution all the way to modern neuroscience and these really counterintuitive strategies.
And it all comes back to that central idea. Willpower isn't this mystical force. It's a system built on self-awareness, self-care, and remembering what you truly want.
So to kind of wrap it all up, it seems like there are 3 core pillars to build. First, just radical self-awareness.
You have to notice what you're doing. Notice the choices, the triggers, the moral licensing traps before they hook you.
Second, self-care. This isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for the system to work.
It's the whole physiological reserve. Managing stress, eating food that stabilizes your energy, moving your body. You have to take care of the hardware. Stress is the enemy. Rest is the medicine.
And finally, that I want power. You have to constantly remember what matters.
Make that future self real. Connect your tiny choices today to your biggest goals for tomorrow. That's what gives you the fuel to get through the hard moments.
The whole approach is really about becoming a scientist of your own mind, isn't it?
It is. Be curious, not judgmental. When you fail, don't see it as a sign of weakness. See it as data. Okay, that didn't work. What can I learn? What can I try next? Be open to these weird ideas like self-forgiveness and acceptance because the data shows they work.
So as we leave you today with this scientific blueprint for self-control, we have one last question for you to take with you. What one simple willpower experiment are you going to try this week? Maybe it's 5 minutes of meditation. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for a mistake. Maybe it's just mindfully surfing one urge without acting on it. Whatever it is, how are you going to make sure that your future self gets the benefit of what you learn?
Because that's where the real work and the real change begins.